Hello guys, sorry for the lack of updates. I had to fly back home in a rush because of family matters, but now I am back. If you follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you might have seen the early stage of these two piggies. This is a cake topper for my friend's wedding, and sadly I couldn't make it to her wedding in person because I was on the other side of the globe. But I was happy to have finished it before I left. I will show you the process I took to make this cake topper. The main thing for this cake topper is I used apoxie sculpt instead of Palmer clay. Apoxie sculpt is a two-part clay that is putty-like with adhesive quality. It is air dry, it doesn't require an oven. I didn't use Palmer clay for this because I was concerned about the weight. So for the bulk of the piggies, I used lightweight air dry clay to make two big balls for the head and triangular shapes for the body. This air dry clay will lighten up the weight, but if you choose to use Palmer clay, you can use aluminum foil for the bulk. I did make a baby pig back in 2014 where I used Palmer clay, so you can watch that video to see other way of making a cake topper. After I have formed the head and the body, I let that dry overnight before adding the apoxie sculpt. On my first attempt, I thought the epoxy would stick right on the air dry clay, but it didn't because the smooth surface, so I had to make tons of hatches with X-Acto knife so that the epoxy will have textures to grab onto. It wasn't so bad. Then mix the part A and part B of the epoxy sculpt together. This is my first time using this epoxy sculpt and it was way different than I thought. It's not like Palmer clay at all. It's more like mud or ceramic clay if you have worked with those. I couldn't roll it flat because it was so sticky, so I just took a small amount of the epoxy sculpt and smear it on the air dry clay like so. I also keep a small bowl of water near me to wet the epoxy because it hardens as I work. This epoxy sculpt takes about 24 hours to fully dry, but about 2 to 3 hours to work with. I didn't want to waste the epoxy, so I only mixed a small portion, just enough to work on the head part first. Once the first layer of epoxy is on, the rest comes pretty easily to add and sculpt. To make a smooth surface of the head, I had to roll it in between my palms and add some water as I go. To connect the body and the head, I hatched the connection part just in case, but I'm sure the stickiness of the epoxy is strong enough to stick to each other. After the basic form of the pigs are done, I let them dry overnight before adding more details on. From that on, it's pretty much just adding and forming the pieces to be attached to the pigs. I use sculpting tools and water to help me blend the epoxy. Unfortunately, I have to rush the piggies, so I didn't have the time to record the rest of the process, but the idea is pretty much just form the facial features and the body parts. Let the whole thing dry before painting. I used acrylic paints and some brushes to paint the colors on the piggies. I had to paint several layers on in order to achieve an opaque finish. The eyes, the mouth, and the eyebrows were painted on since they were easier that way. After I have finished painting, I sealed the paint with this varnish. This is a matte finish, but it still have a bit shine to it. I apply about 3 coats, that's why the surface is quite shiny. Some of you might not like it. You can just apply 1 coat just to seal up the paint from chipping or breaking. You can add some more stuff to it like hearts, initials, flowers, anything you want. I am happy with how it turned out, although I will spend a bit more time on the painting part, but that's okay. I glued the piggies and a plexi round base since the plexi is light. If you want to get into Palmer clay, I have some materials available on my Etsy shop. The link is in the description box below, so check that out if you are interested. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. I love you and I will see you later. Bye!